So I'm standing in front of, like, I don't know, Shaquille O'Neal, right? He's standing in front of me. And I roll a freaking 16, right? I'm just a guy in front of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal just called my mom a bitch, right? And I'm like, what? And I want to slap him in his face. Okay, admittedly, I need to jump like 2 meters in the air to slap him in the face, right? But I want to slap the guy in the face, right? And I do that. I get to shove Shaquille O'Neal without him being able to contest that. That makes no sense. Wizards of the Coast seem to be, for some reason, under the assumption that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons needs a new rule set. And in 2024, they're going to release a new rule set they are now referring to as One D&D. And although I still think that 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is usable for any game of Dungeons & Dragons you are playing, I'm actually also pretty excited for some of the changes they're making. Hi there, fellow roleplayers and game masters. My name is Mr. Tarazg and welcome to another One D&D video where I will be following the complete entire development of One D&D. I will listen to the developers, what they have to say. I will look into the playtesting material. I will find positives. I will find negatives. I will smash them together and form my own opinion. And as we all know, I am a world-leading expert in my own opinion, so I'm probably the guy to talk about that. So, 2 things actually happened yesterday. First, Wizards of the Coast released a video, kind of an interview of 18 minutes long, where they talk about the second playtesting material, the second playtesting PDF for One D&D, all about expert classes. They kind of go into their vision and mentality when they're designing these playtests and what they are expecting from us in return for these playtests, and then they actually released the playtest in PDF form on their website for us to download. So I want to do 2 things today. I want to kind of like talk about this trailer interview thing for a little bit, just a few bullet points that I got out of it that I think are really important to share with you guys. And then I want to go a little bit deeper into the PDF itself and just find some really cool stuff that I actually totally 100% agree with, and maybe like 1 or 2 things that I really don't agree with. The video is about 18 minutes long, so I won't be talking about everything, but one of the most important things they talk about is the expert classes. That's what this PDF is all about, and the expert classes are the Rogue, the Bard, and the Ranger. Those 3 classes are part of the group that's called expert classes. So what they're doing, they're basically taking like the 4th edition idea of grouping all classes together in different groups. So for example, the warrior classes are like the fighter and the barbarian, the priest classes are the druid, the cleric, and the paladin. There's the arcane classes, and there's the expert classes, and whatever other classes groups there are. Now, what these groups do is nothing more than just group these classes together, and that gives you a new simplicity opportunity for like feats or magic items or other things or other features in the game that only apply to members of a certain group. So they don't have to say like, this is only usable for bards and rangers. No, they can say this is usable for all expert classes and warrior classes, but not for priest class groups or whatever. So that's the kind of simplicity that I am a really, really big fan of. It is the same thing what they did with like the spell list, where they in the previous Unearthed Arcana 1 D&D playtest, they already like split the spells up in just like 3 lists, not a list for every spell casting class. No, there's just the arcane list. There is the divine list and the primal list. So there's just 3 spell lists, and every class just has like 1 spell list they can use outside of like, of course, the bard, who can pick some classes from different spell lists. But this kind of simplification I am just a really big fan of, and I like that they're trying to do that in like this One D&D rule set in 2024. Another very important thing they refer to in this video, among other things of course, is they remind us that this is a playtest. Now, they're not talking down on us or anything, they're just reminding us that, hey, we're putting in a bunch of sometimes weird rules because we just want to get your feedback. So for example, there were the crit rules, which we all totally did not agree with, but they're basically saying, if you read between the lines, that we are getting pissed off for rules that that aren't even going to probably be in the 2024 edition anyway, because they were just testing it out. For example, the crit rules in this new Unearthed Arcana playtest material, they just refer to the crit rules from the 2014 Player's Handbook. So they're going back to where the crit rules were. For me personally, they were just perfect. Also, they say that every new playtest rule overrules the old playtest rules. So now they're saying, for example, the crit rules are from the 2014 Player's Handbook, so they are actually literally getting rid of the crit rules they put in the first playtest material. Another quick example of that is that in the first playtest they said you get inspiration, heroic inspiration, when you roll a nat 20. Now you get heroic inspiration if you roll a nat 1, which I personally think is way cooler, because your dungeon master is like, you rolled a nat 1, but hey, here's some inspiration, right? I think that's a way cooler rule for rolling a natural 1, because you absolutely fail, but we all know that if you fail at something in life, you actually get stronger from it. That's what they tell me. Now, let's look into the PDF and look at some things that I really like, some things that I'm not really sure of, and at least one thing that I absolutely despise. And here it is, Unearthed Arcana 2022 expert classes. Now, this is not going to be one of those videos where I scroll through the entire thing, read the entire thing, and give my opinion on every little letter and number that's in here, because there's a lot of videos on YouTube that already do that. And if you're interested in that, make sure to watch those after you watch this one and have clicked the subscribe button to my channel. Anyway, we're just going to go over this, and I just want to kind of like look into the thought process they have. So the expert classes, again, are the Ranger, the Bard, and the Rogue. So these are the classes they are going to combine as expert classes. So they talk about, like always, this is playtest material, how to playtest. There's going to be a questionnaire and stuff like that. They talk about how a class is set up and how you should read a class, stuff like that. They just go into that. By the way, this 37 pages thick Unearthed Arcana, so it's really well worth downloading and looking over for yourself. And this is the first interesting thing right here. Bottom left is experts are the Bard, Ranger, and Rogue. And then they give like characteristics, right? So mages are the sorcerer, warlock, and wizards. Priests are the cleric, druid, paladin, and warriors are the barbarian, fighter, and monk. Now, priests, for me personally, I think it's kind of weird. Stewards of divine or primal magic, focusing on healing, utility, and defense. I don't know if I think priest is a good name. Of course, a cleric believes in like a deity, but like for me, a druid doesn't always believe in a deity, and even a paladin is only gets their powers from their oath, at least in 5th edition. So they might be changing that around a little bit, that you need like a deity to believe in, a nature deity or like a divine source or whatever, to be able to be called a priest. But I think this is really cool. These class groups are really cool. They also say that the artificer is an expert, but they are in another book. They also say now it gets easier for like new players, and this is really true for me. Like if you're a new player, so you're a new group of people, there might be like one experienced person, and there's 4 people at your table. It's really a good idea to have one class from each group. So now you're not going to tell people like, hey, you need to play a healer, so you need to play a freaking cleric. No, you can say like, hey, one person is a warrior, the other one is a priest, the other one is a mage, and the other one is an expert. Now, of course, you can mix and combine whatever you want. It's D&D, you can do whatever you want, but it's just a good way of like giving people like a sense of how to build that classic back and forth between classes, right? And the experts are in this thing. And why are they called the experts? Well, because they are the classes that are actually an expert in something. Meaning that, and this is also something they do with the grouping, is that they, for example, these ones get polymaths who have the expertise feature. So all of the experts have the expertise feature. That's something that belongs to all of these. So if you want somebody in your crew that is the best ever at like one particular thing, you get an expert, either a bard, rogue, or ranger, because they all get expertise and they all can pick and choose whatever they want, where they want the expertise in. Now, the bard starts off interesting. In a way, like armor training is also like a little bit different. Not going to go too much into that. There is the Bardic Inspiration, which now, when another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear fails a d20 test, so that's a d20 test is now like the combined word for an attack roll, ability check, I don't know, a saving throw. Instead of saying like attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, or skill check, or whatever, like there's a line of text, they just say d20 test. This is that simplification I was talking about earlier in the video that I really very much like. You can use your reaction to give the creature a Bardic Inspiration die. The creature rolls that die and adds the number rolled. So the Bardic Inspiration now is more of a reaction-based thing. And you can also heal someone immediately after another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear takes damage. You can use your reaction to roll your Bardic Inspiration die and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number you rolled. Really cool way of doing it. Of course, we all know like there's the Bardic die. It's just starts with the d6, it ends as a d12. But there is like, for example, there's also like the Song of Restoration. So the bard got like Song of Rest, or what was it called? I'm not like very good at like knowing all the rules, so this is just like the main idea of it. But now the Song of Restoration is just a bunch of spells you get extra. You have learned how to use music, poetry, and dance to heal wounds and melodies. When you reach certain levels in this class, you add specific spells to your Songs of Restoration repertoire as shown on the Song of Restoration repertoire table. You also have the spell prepared, as it doesn't count against the numbers of spells you have. You can prepare. So instead of just saying, hey, you have a Song of Rest, everybody who does a short rest gets like a d6 extra on their first hit die. Here's just a bunch of new spells you can do, which I like. Again, simplifies things. You have spells, you can cast spells, and instead of adding a new feature that does something completely different, you now have the Song of Restoration, which gives you just these new spells, right? Now, role-playing wise, I really liked Song of Inspiration, Song of Inspiration. Another thing they do I want to talk about is the ability score improvement feat. As you can see, it is here somewhere, Bard subclass, Feats. Now it just says feat, right? It says feat. It doesn't say ability score improvement anymore. And in 5th edition, it was ability score improvement. And then there was this rule that said each time you get an ability score improvement, you can also choose a feat, which was kind of like like, was it like a detour or something like that to say something really simple? Now it just says you get a feat. And the ability score improvement, like we know it's like 1 point on 2 things or 2 points on 1 thing, is just a feat. It's called the ability score improvement feat. That's it. So when it says feat right here, for example, right here on 8th level, you gain the ability score improvement feat or another feat of your choice. Boom, simplification. I like simplification, really love their thought process of this. They're not always doing it right already, but they got a lot of time to do that. But it's just the way they're looking at stuff. Like, this is just easier for new players. Like, now your Dungeon Master can still say you only get to pick that feat. Or we do feats and you can pick whatever particular set of feats you want. So it's still just basically the same thing. You now get an epic boon at 20th level. You gain the epic boon or lucky feat, epic boon of luck feat, or another epic boon feat of your choice. So you get that at level 20. There was another thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, so the bard gets to choose from, they start off from the arcane spell list, but then they can pick stuff from divine or primal as well. And this is also really cool. Prepared bard spells. This section provides recommended spells that you prepare at each bard level. So it's really cool for new players, that's one thing. that just want to copy this spell list and then maybe like change one spell around, change 2 spells around, right? But they just want to start off with this to start the game or to know what they're doing. Also, it is really cool for, like me, for example, if I'm playing a game, I'm fighting this dragon or fighting this hydra or whatever, and I go down and then my character dies and the party goes on without me. I have to quickly create a new level 5 character just to be dropped in the game in the same session again. I can do that by just having the recommended prepared spells. It's just a small thing they do, which is really cool. I'm just like, okay, I'll quickly create a bard, and then like copy those spells, boom, boom, boom. I play a session, and then when we do a long rest or whatever, I can change some spells around, which I think is, yeah, a really good way of, yeah, just doing that stuff. Of course, there is a lot of new stuff that the bard gets. There is the College of Lore stuff. Bonus proficiencies, cunning words, cunning inspiration. Through your studies, your cunning, you've learned to inspire others exceptionally well. When any creature rolls your bardic inspiration die, that creature can roll the die twice and use the higher of the 2 rolls. Really cool. So another expert is the ranger, and they talk about the base class and the hunter. So we're not getting the beastmaster just yet. I hope we're getting the beastmaster at some point, like a really cool epic version of the beastmaster. I really want that. And they now have, and this is a really cool change. I always disliked like so they get expertise, same as the bard, and they get favorite enemy, which they also got. Where is it? Favorite enemy somewhere here, which I also got, but then you had to say like, my favorite enemies are giants. And then if you never encountered giants, you're basically screwed because you couldn't like do the thing you wanted to do against that because you chose giants because you're stupid, or your dungeon master is stupid, or the game is stupid, whatever. You are adept at focusing your ire on a single foe. You always have the Hunter's Mark spell prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. Moreover, that's such a cool word. Moreover, you don't have to concentrate on the spell once you cast it. It lasts for its full duration, which is an hour if I'm not mistaken, until you end it as a bonus action or you are incapacitated. That's really cool. For first level, that's really cool. You have Hunter's Mark and you don't have to concentrate on it. So at first level, you can point at somebody and dish extra damage to them if you hit them, which Hunter's Mark is already a bonus action. So you can do that and then start shooting them or hitting them, which I think is a really cool way of doing this favorite enemy thing. You get to choose according to like the situation who at that point in time is your favorite enemy. That's basically the idea behind it. So then there's the fighting style, which is another big improvement and simplification. Now the fighting styles aren't fighting styles anymore. Well, they still are, but they are now also feats. So the ability score improvement is a feat. The feats are feats, and the fighting styles are feats. They just have prerequisites that say you must be of a certain class group in order to take this feat. For the fighting style, they're going to say you're only able to take this if you are part of probably the warrior group or whatever. But they say here you have owned your martial prowess. You gain one of the following fighting style feats of your choice: archery, defense, or 2-weapon fighting. And whenever you gain a feat at later levels, fighting style feats are among your options, even though you aren't a member of a warrior group. So that's where I got that information from. They're going to say like with this fighting style you probably get like so that's the simplification I'm talking about. So now all of that stuff is just classified under feat, right? Unarmed strike is part of unarmed strike, the extra 1d8 damage. Was there something else? I'm not like, okay, then there's the rogue. Oh yeah, there's the sneak attack. Something changed with the sneak attack, but I can't really say what it is. Into daily when attack action, you can attack roll. Roll number of d6s equal to half your rogue level, round up. So it's also in the table. No, it's the same thing, but the only thing is they kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, they kind of changed this around. I think it should start with 2d6 in like 5th edition, but it stays 2d6 longer, and then now it's just, I don't know, there's something different here, and I'm not even sure, but if I open another tab on my computer will explode to look it up, but I think it's different, so I'm not going to, yeah, not like gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to say it, but I think it's different. Cutting action, uncanny dodge, it's still all there. When attacker you can see hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to halve the attack's damage grants you. There was another thing that I wanted to talk about, but I don't know anymore what it is. Oh yeah, here it is. Reliable talent. You have refined your talents until they approach perfection. Whenever you make an ability check that uses one of your skill or tool proficiencies, very important, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10, which is basically the 3.5 rule, take 10. So because you're a rogue and because you're proficient in something, you now get to take 10 on that roll if you roll lower as a 10. Which I think is really cool. It's really cool. It's just really cool. You roll a 9, so that's it. You roll an 8, so that's a 10. You add your stuff, and maybe it still doesn't succeed, but maybe it succeeds because you're just so good at it that you can like do it with your eyes closed. Basically, that's what they're trying to do with this. But a bonus action from cunning action use feature. So there's the search. Oh, there's also fast hands. You have additional options. So this is for the thief subclass. You have additional options for the bonus action of your cunning action. So cunning action is the ability of the rogue where you can dash, hide, or disengage as a bonus action, if I'm not mistaken, with which you can do the following. You can take the search action or the sleight of hand action, which is a sleight of hand check to pick a lock or disarm a trap or whatever. Also, there is second story work, which is a really cool title. You have trained to reach, especially hard to reach places. Granting these benefits, you get a climb speed and your jump distance. When you take the jump action, you can make a dexterity check instead of a strength check. I think this is cool. For the rogue, this makes sense. Jumping has always been strength, and I cannot tell you how many times I have sat on my tail, had to explain people, no, jumping is strength. Yeah, but I want to jump stylishly or against the wall or whatever. Okay, if you want to jump stylishly, you can do dexterity to do it stylishly and see how stylishly you fall into the freaking pit. Jumping over a freaking pit requires strength. But a rogue, it makes sense that a thief just knows how to push themselves from a wall, like wall run, like just like 2 tabs or something like that, or just put their hands against something and something like that, which makes it dexterity. It makes sense for the rogue, but it doesn't make sense for the other classes, in my opinion. So then there are the feats. So there's still the feats we know and love. There's still dual wielder, and there are a lot of these have changed. Like for example, there is the overpowered defy death feature of the durable feats, which you can only take at 4th level or higher. You have advantage on death saving throws. That's just so overpowered. Like as a bonus action, you can expand one of your hit dice, roll the die, and again, so you can heal yourself during combat. You can basically do second wins all through until all of your hit die are gone. But advantage on death saving throws is really powerful. Now, as a dungeon master, you could say like, no, my bandits or my orcs keep attacking you, so you actually fail those checks and you actually die, or you get eaten by, I don't know, a roper or something. But overall, if you're just laying there rolling death saves, you are not going to die if you have advantage on them. Mathematically, chances are really high that you'll live. So I'm just saying that. So there is the epic boon feats, elemental adepts, and then there are the, as you can see, fighting style feats. So fighting style, great weapon fighting, for example. Prerequisite, warrior group. Repeatable, no. And it's still the same thing. When you roll 1 or 2 in the damage die, on attack, roll a melee weapon, blah, 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 you get to do more damage. So there are the fighting style protection, the fighting style archery, fighting style defense. And yeah, I really like that now everything is more like with this group of experts, they all get expertise and they have some class features that are actually the same because they're part of the same group. Then all of like the extra stuff, like the ability score improvement and fighting styles and all of that is just poured into the feat section. And then the spells are also, like you see here, are still just 3 spell lists: Arcane, Divine, and Primal. I really like that. I keep repeating myself, I know. And something that I also really like is that they put the ritual tag in here, yes or no, which makes life way easier. Also, Wizards of the Coast, please. I am dyslexic. Is that even the way to say that in English? I don't know. I do not know how to use the alphabet, right? So please, for the love of God, in 2024, please add page numbers to these spell descriptions. Put a page number here for a person like me. Please. Thank you. So ritual, yes or no, which I really like. And they also change it because that's something they say in the video. Really important. Now, if a spell has the ritual tag, you get to cast it as a ritual. You don't have to unlock that feature as a class. You used to, as a class, you used to have like the ritual casting ability, and then you would be able to cast a spell as a ritual. Now, if it is castable as a ritual, cast it as a ritual to your heart's content. So yeah, that's cool. So there's the spell list. It's a long one. There's a long spell list. It's getting longer and longer and longer because it now goes all the way up to level 20. And then there is the rules glossary. And there is something to be said about that. So there's the attack action, unarmed strike action, it's required. They changed the spell Barkskin for the better, for me personally. Barkskin used to be that you cast it on somebody and their skin gets like this 3 bark layer on top of it. And then people just, it's sad you couldn't go under 16 AC or something like that. Now it gives you temporary hit points, and every start of your turn you get like new Barkskin, which makes more sense because the temporary hit points, somebody hits you on your Barkskin and it just crumbles away, and then at the start of your turn you get new temporary hit points because you get new Barkskin on top of you. So temporary hit points for me make way more sense than armor class for a Barkskin. D20 tests, whenever your character rolls a 1 on a D20 test, the character gains Heroic Inspiration. Way cooler than on a 20. A 20 is cool enough in itself to roll. So with a 1, getting Heroic Inspiration is way cooler. Now, for me personally, I don't need rules to tell me when to give my players inspiration. I give my players inspiration when I want to give them inspiration. When they do something cool, something dangerous, something so in character that I am laughing my ass off, or I'm like just saying, what? And then I'm like, okay, you get inspiration. I give inspiration to at least one player character, like all of my games. I really personally don't need the rules to say, hey, now your player gets inspiration, because I want to be able to hand inspiration to players and them being happy with that and not saying I already have inspiration because I rolled a 1. It's just, I'm not a really big fan of that. But if it needs to be in there, on a 1 is really the better way. Also, big improvement, Exhaustion. Exhaustion has always been a hassle for me to use in my games because I'm always having to look up on the internet on my phone or on like in like the player's handbook, or where is it, like what level of exhaustion is this person and what are they suffering from. They simplified this so much. Now a level of there's 10 levels of exhaustion, and a level of exhaustion, all it does is it gives you a -1 on all your D20 tests, a -1 on your DCs for saving throws, and that's it. So if you are any D20 test you do, get a -1 per exhaustion level. So 1 night of bad sleep, it's like, I'm getting a -1, not feeling that good. 2 nights bad sleep, it's like, oh shit. 3 nights, oh shit. And then it really starts to get bad, right? And then for the same thing for the difficult classes of your spell. So for everything, you basically get a -1, which is way simpler. So you don't have to like look up the rule every time somebody has exhaustion. No, it's just like, how high is your level of exhaustion? Oh, I'm on an 8. Okay, you detract 8 from your roll, from all your rolls until you are cured. Finishing a long rest removes one of your levels of exhaustion. When your exhaustion level reaches 0, you are no longer exhausted. When it exceeds 10, you die. Boom, you dead. So I really like the simplification of exhaustion. Role-playing wise, there should be like some text in there how to role play this exhaustion, because now it's just numbers. There's less like stuff in there that actually like adds to the role playing. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then the last thing I want to talk about, so there's other like changes, like short sword is now a simple weapon rather than a martial weapon. Special speeds, flying speed, swimming speed, blah 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 blah. Then there is this, which I really don't like. Unarmed strike. As an unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves you using your body to damage, grapple, or shove a target with your reach. Your bonus to hit with an unarmed strike equals your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus. Makes sense. On a hit, your unarmed strike causes one of the following effects of your choice: damage, grapple, or shove. Shove, for example, you either push the target 5 feet away or knock the target prone. This shove is possible only if the target is no more than one size larger than you. So I'm standing in front of, like, I don't know, Shaquille O'Neal, right? He's standing in front of me. And I roll a freaking 16, right? I'm just a guy in front of Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal just called my mom a bitch, right? And I'm like, what? And I want to slap him in his face. Okay, admittedly, I need to jump like 2 meters in the air to slap him in the face, right? But I want to slap the guy in the face, right? And I do that. I get to shove Shaquille O'Neal without him being able to contest that. That makes no sense. And that's basically all there is to say about One D&D at this point in time, outside of the fact that I really like Shaquille O'Neal, and he was just like the first guy that came to mind that can squish me with his thumb, basically.